Hey tennis fans, welcome to another Tennis Express Racket review. Today we're taking a look at the Wilson Pro Staff 97S. Wilson, with the help of Roger Federer, has once again redefined how the Pro Staff family looks, feels, and plays. Looking at the whole family of rackets, you'll notice that they sport separate cosmetics. This is a concept Fed introduced into the Pro Staff family. Technologically, this racket has two changes to it. The removal of Kevlar in the graphite braid, which brings some of the comfort back to the racket, and its new engineered paint job, which seems to help dampen vibrations through the frame. Last but not least is one cool feature that'll be on every new Wilson racket. Wilson has spared no expense with this racket, and they want you to know it. Pro Staff on the side of the throat is laser engraved into every racket. The 97S was one of the ones I was really looking forward to when they first introduced it, especially with it being Dimitrov's racket. That 18 by 17 string pattern keeps it pretty tight so you don't lose some of that control that a lot of the early spin rackets were known for with that 16 by 15 string pattern. They bumped the balance from 3 points unstrung headlight to 6 points unstrung headlight. So I really enjoyed that. Honestly though, if it were me and I worked for Wilson, I would probably have gone maybe even as much as 9. The Pro Staff family has always been known as a heavy control-oriented headlight primarily racket. So, when you string this up, you're looking at 2-3 points headlight after you put the string in there. So that's almost an even balance. And also, if I was going to make this my own racket, which I probably will, I will change off the leather grip and put something else on there, or perhaps just throw some over grips over it so I can get that better feel that you get from having a leather grip. Next up, we've got Anna. What did you think of the racket?
I actually really liked this racket. I thought that it had a really good feel to it, especially on my forehand side. I felt like I got some pretty good spin, and it reminded me a lot of a racket I used to play with in the past, the Wilson 95S. If I was to recommend this racket to someone, I would definitely recommend it to someone who maybe had a lot more power, just so that they could have a better feel when they went for their shots. Well, I play with the Head Prestige. This racket had a lot more feel to it. I really love my racket, and I wouldn't switch, but this one had a lot more feel. It was comfortable. It felt really good to hit all my shots. So if I was to recommend it to somebody that hit with a lot of spin, or if I was to recommend the racket to somebody who played with a lot of power, I would assume that this player was a little more on the advanced side rather than the beginner side.
All right, next up we've got Eric. What did you think of the racket?
I was a big fan of it, actually. This is one of my favorite of the last generation, was the 97S. I do think it needs a stiffer poly in it. We did try the elements in this racket, Flexalon element. I like it a lot, especially I use it in my own racket actually. But in this case, being a spin effect racket, pretty open string bed, I think it needed a little bit stiffer poly just to firm it up a little bit, make it a little more consistent with the feel. Overall, I was a big fan of it. Thinner beam, I love that thin beam in the hand, and overall it was a pretty solid racket. One thing I'd probably change would be the balance of it just ever so slightly. I think it needs to be a little bit more headlight. It's one thing about these rackets that they have that kind of mid 11 ounce range in weight, but I think it needs to be just a little bit more headlight to really have that whippiness that you need for these spin effect rackets.
Thanks for tuning in to our Tennis Express racket review, and be sure to check out our other videos on our YouTube channel to stay up to date on all the latest news here at Tennis Express.